Welcome, everyone. Today, we are going to explore one of the most crucial concepts in generative AI, context. By the end of this training, you will understand exactly how Copilot tailors its answers based on your data, your apps, and your prompts. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Let us start by answering a fundamental question. What exactly is context? When we talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot, think of context as the situational awareness that the AI possesses. If you ask a generic AI model to write a status report, it will give you a generic template. But Copilot is different. It acts as your workflow companion by pulling context from three specific areas: your work files, the public web, and the actual application you are working inside. This is why the responses you get feel incredibly personalized and deeply relevant to your business. We will explore how mastering this concept will transform you from a basic user into a Copilot power user, allowing you to dictate exactly what data the AI reasons over to generate its outputs. Let us look at this flowchart, which breaks down the Copilot context engine. At the top, we have Microsoft 365 Copilot itself. Notice how it branches into three distinct pathways. First, the work context node represents the AI's ability to see your internal files, emails, and meetings securely. Next is the web context node, representing real-time public data from the internet. Finally, the app context node represents the software you currently have open, like Word or Excel. Understanding how these three nodes interact is the key to unlocking Copilot's full potential, as each pathway dramatically alters the final output you receive. Now that we understand the pillars of context, let us focus on the data toggle you will use every day: work mode versus web mode. This is a fundamental choice you must make before prompting. When you select work mode, Copilot is looking exclusively at your internal ecosystem, your emails, chats, and documents accessed securely via Microsoft Graph. This is what you use when you need an update on internal project statuses. On the other hand, web mode shifts the AI's gaze outward to the public internet using the Bing search index. This is perfect for researching broad industry trends or competitor analysis. The magic happens when you understand how to use both. For example, you might use web mode to find a new industry framework, and then switch to work mode to see how your internal projects align with it. This left-to-right diagram illustrates the data toggle in action. Starting at the Copilot chat interface, you as the user flip a switch. Taking the top path, work mode routes your prompt directly into the Microsoft Graph, strictly restricting the context to your internal documents and chats. Taking the bottom path, web mode completely bypasses your internal data and routes the prompt out to the Bing search index to capture public web trends. This visual distinction is vital. The mode you choose acts as a hard boundary for where the AI's brain is allowed to wander. Let us move to the third pillar, application context. The app you have open acts as a massive contextual cue for Copilot. If you ask Copilot to summarize this while in Microsoft Word, it assumes you mean the open document. If you type the exact same prompt in Microsoft Teams during a meeting, Copilot knows to summarize the live meeting transcript. The tool adapts its capabilities to the environment. In Excel, the context demands structured data. Your information must be in a formatted table for Copilot to interact with it, allowing you to generate charts and analyze trends. In PowerPoint, the context shifts to visual storytelling, allowing you to reference a Word document and immediately spin it out into a slide deck. Understanding your app context ensures you don't fight the AI, but flow with it. Look at how powerful this flowchart is. We start with a single, identical user prompt: summarize this. But as it flows into the active app context decision engine, the outcome splinters into four completely different results. In Word, it reads the document. In Teams, it reads the transcript. In Excel, it looks for a data table, and in PowerPoint, it preps bullet points for a slide. This visually reinforces that you do not always need to write a massive paragraph explaining what you want. The application itself is doing the heavy lifting of establishing the context for you. We cannot talk about work context without talking about the engine powering it, Microsoft Graph. When you prompt Copilot in work mode, the LLM does not inherently know your business. The prompt triggers a process called grounding. During this split-second phase, Copilot sends a signal through Microsoft Graph, which searches across your SharePoint, OneDrive, Outlook emails, and Teams chats to find relevant information. Graph then packages this internal data and feeds it to the large language model alongside your original prompt. This means the AI generates its response based on your actual, real-time enterprise data. Graph is the ultimate context gatherer, turning a generic AI model into a highly specialized expert on your current projects and communications. This diagram showcases the grounding lifecycle. It begins on the left with the user prompt. Before it ever reaches the AI brain, it drops into the grounding via MS Graph step. You can see the arrows pulling from the enterprise data cylinder representing your vast network of files and emails. Graph acts as a librarian, selecting only the highly relevant materials and passing them forward into the LLM processing node. Finally, the system outputs a perfectly contextual response. This sequence proves that your data is the fuel that makes Copilot intelligent. A critical aspect of context that senior leaders and IT professionals always ask about is security. Does Copilot have access to everything in the company? The answer is a definitive no. Copilot's context is strictly bound by your individual permissions. Governed by Microsoft Entra ID, Copilot only accesses data that you are already authorized to view. If you cannot search for a sensitive HR document on SharePoint manually, Copilot cannot read it either, and therefore cannot use it as context. Furthermore, the data fetched to provide context for your prompt remains within your secure tenant. Microsoft strictly ensures that your customer data is not used to train the underlying foundation models. Your context is your context, and your boundaries are enforced seamlessly and automatically. Let us trace the security flow in this diagram. The user request hits a critical checkpoint, Microsoft Entra ID. This is the bouncer at the door. You can see two distinct paths here. The authorized path allows Copilot to scan the user's emails and files, successfully including them in the AI context. However, the unauthorized path points toward confidential HR or finance data, and the dotted line clearly shows this path is blocked and excluded from the AI context. This visual confirms that security and permissions form an impenetrable boundary around Copilot's contextual reach. While Copilot is excellent at automatically determining context based on your app and graph data, you as the expert can take the wheel and drive the context manually. You do this using reference tags directly in your prompt. By typing a // you can explicitly reference a specific file, forcing Copilot to use only that document as its context. Typing the @ symbol allows you to pull in the perspective or recent communications of a specific colleague, while the hashtag symbol targets specific meetings or topics. If you want Copilot to summarize feedback from your manager on a specific presentation, using the @ and / tags guarantees the AI is looking at the exact data you want, eliminating guesswork and drastically optimizing your results. This diagram reveals the power of manual context tagging. Starting at the user prompt, we enter the context tags decision node. You can see three tools at your disposal: the / targeting a specific file, the @ symbol targeting a specific person, and the hashtag targeting a meeting. All of these pathways converge into the final node, a laser-focused AI response. By actively using these keyboard shortcuts, you bypass general searches and spoon-feed the exact context to Copilot, ensuring total precision. Sometimes, establishing context requires a specialized mindset. That is why Microsoft introduced Copilot agents. These are expert teammates embedded in your interface. The standard Copilot is excellent at drafting and summarizing. However, if you invoke the researcher agent, you immediately shift the context to deep discovery, allowing the AI to synthesize structured reports using both internal and external web sources with citations. If you invoke the analyst agent, the context shifts to mathematical and statistical reasoning. The analyst agent can evaluate complex spreadsheets, calculate trends, and even use an internal code interpreter to generate visual charts. By selecting an agent, you are essentially telling the AI, change your entire context from a writer to a data scientist. Look at how the choice of agent alters the AI's operational context. Starting from the Copilot chat interface, the user selects an agent. The standard path keeps the context focused on typical text drafting and summarizing. The researcher path expands the context to deep synthesis and citation gathering. The analyst path dramatically shifts the context to a mathematical and graphical environment. This visual demonstrates that agents are not just different prompt menus, they are entirely different contextual lenses through which the AI views your data. Let us bring all of this together with a real-time, highly practical use case. Imagine you are tasked with writing an executive summary on AI in financial services by tomorrow morning. Your information is scattered. First, you leverage web context. You ask Copilot in web mode to gather the latest industry analyst reports and public trends. Second, you shift to work context. You use work mode to summarize internal meetings, emails, and strategy documents from the past 3 months. You drop these insights into a Copilot notebook to organize them. Finally, you leverage app context. You move into Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, point Copilot to your notebook, and ask it to draft a formatted executive summary. By intelligently directing the context from web to work to application, you achieve in minutes what used to take days. This final flowchart maps our masterclass use case. The goal at the top triggers two parallel actions. Step 1 uses web mode for external trends, while Step 2 uses work mode for internal emails. These two massive data streams funnel seamlessly into the Copilot Notebook Synthesis Hub, where the AI aligns your internal capabilities with market trends. From there, we flow into Step 3, applying the app context of Word or PowerPoint to structure the data, resulting in the final formatted presentation at the bottom. This is the true power of commanding Copilot's context.